Okay, so let's get started then with 4E. So let's read the scenario. It says that one of U.S. Shirt's competitors, Hot Shirts, so your data from last night's homework was about U.S. Shirts, so that's where that's coming from. But their competitors, Hot Shirts, advertises that they make custom shirts for $5.50 each and then a setup fee of $49.95. How much will 3 shirts cost? So answer the following with complete sentences and show your work. So what are we going to do here? So we're looking for 3 shirts. How much is a shirt?
$5.50.
$5.50, good. So we're going to take that $5.50 per shirt, and instead of just once, we're going to multiply it by 3 because there's 3 shirts. Is that all that goes into my costs? What else, Jocelyn? I see you shaking your head. Good. We have to add that one-time setup fee. Okay? So now we'll simplify order of operations, and feel free to use a calculator for this, guys. You can use a calculator on your test on Tuesday. So this is really saying I in the calculator get 16.5, but remember, we're talking money, so let's keep it as 16.50 plus the $49.95. Okay? We writing things down? Bud? Add those together now. And that gives me $66.45. So in our complete sentence, it will cost $66.45 for 3 shirts. Okay, everybody go ahead. Number 2, I want you to practice right now writing that explanation of what we did without numbers. So don't just tell me I multiplied by 3, right? What do those numbers represent? Go ahead, do that. Does anyone want to share their words? What operation did we do first? Good, I multiplied. Max, sorry, I saw you starting to talk. What did we do? Multiplied what?
We multiplied the cost of each shirt by the amount of shirts.
Perfect. Okay, multiplied the cost of each shirt by the amount of shirts, or vice versa. You could have said I multiplied the amount of shirts by the cost of shirts, right? Same thing. After we multiplied, what operation did we use?
You
Added, good. And so then we added that $49.95, which was the setup fee. Okay, remember, your words don't need to look identical, but it needs to be similar. That's for sure. Okay? All right, number 3 now says, how many shirts can we buy with $874.95? So we're going to do the opposite, right? This time around, we know each shirt is $5.50, but we don't know how many shirts. So X goes there instead of a 3. We know we have to pay that setup fee, and all together, that cost can equal $874.95. So we need an equation this time. Yep, exactly. So go ahead and you can solve the equation. Remember, we're going to undo the operations. So we're going to subtract first and then keep on going. After we subtract, then we divide. And what'd you guys get? 150. Good. So what does the 150 mean? Shirts, exactly. So we can buy 150 shirts. So don't say $150, right? Understand what the question was asking for. Shirts. I'm going to slide that up. And then go ahead and do number 4. So again, in your own words, we're going to use the same descriptions as we did in 2, but the operations are different, right? We didn't multiply or add, we subtracted and divided. So go ahead and jot that down and see if we come up with similar answers. All right, anyone want to share? What operation did we do first? Good, Lishka. I subtracted the setup fee, yep. And if you just said fee, that's fine. I'm just being more specific, but that's fine. I subtracted the setup fee from the total amount of money, right? We subtracted it from that 800 value. Total, that's okay. The reason I'm just saying money is so we don't get total confused with, are we talking total shirts or total money? So we did the subtracting and then divided. And we divided by the 550, which represents, exactly, good, Alyssa, divided by the price or cost of each shirt. And again, like that's where it can be a little different. If you said price of shirt, fine. Cost of shirt means the same stuff. All right, good job. Hopefully those of you that aren't participating, you are getting those right in your head at first and just double check it. All right, from there now, let's practice setting up our table. So we just have a little bit of information we're gonna fill in. You'll see on the next worksheet, we're gonna go find even more numbers so that when we go graph, we have a lot of data. So this time around, we have to fill out all of the table you see in number 5. What we need to start with is always identifying that the first column represents what variable? Well, yes, but the X variable. Good. And the second column always represents the Y. So now you have two things. You can identify to yourself, okay, what should be my X variable? But the other big, huge hint is that this number 3 is in this column. What did 3 represent up in my problem in number 1? 3 shirts. So I know that column represents the number of shirts ordered. And if you just have room to write number of shirts, that's okay too. How do I measure shirts? Simply just by shirts. Okay? What is our other variable? So what was the other thing we were determining? And there's a hint for you, right? That 874 is in there. What did that represent? Cost, exactly. And I'm just going to write total cost. Cost is okay, yeah. But again, just being a little more specific because the cost could just mean the cost of one shirt, or are we talking about all of it? And then what's the unit we use for costs? Dollars, right? Okay. So units, guys, is how, like, the label, what it's measured, right? If I was talking about temperature, the unit would be degrees. If I was talking about time, the unit might be hours or days, okay? All right, now let's fill this in. When we had 3 shirts, what did we say the cost was? We said the cost was $66.45, right? So we'll put $66.45 in there. And when it was $874.95, we found that that would be 150 shirts. Good. Okay, so your data is coming, always remember your data is coming from the problems you did above. So here's the deal, guys. If your calculations from the first page, or if your homework is 2 pages, are wrong, this is all going to be off. So please go nice and slow with all your calculations so that you feel confident in the numbers that you've come up with. Okay? All right. So not many pieces of data here, but enough to use for figuring out my bounds and intervals. Lower bound, everybody, is 0. And here's a little hint too, guys. You can double check that you did your chart right because look at the labels that they put here. Number of shirts. Look, that's what we said for X. Total cost. That's what we said for Y. So we did a good job. All right, 4 shirts, the upper bound. That one's very easy to see. Is it 3 or 150? 150. And upper bound for cost? $874.95. All right, I'm going to have everybody right now go find your intervals. Then type it into the chat in a private message. Okay? You just can't do it, yeah.
Are we doing it by 20?
Yeah, divide by 20. The grid that you guys are going to have on your next assignment will be the normal one I give you. So yes, do by 20, okay? And then once you have that interval, like I said, send it into the chat if you're on Zoom. Sorry, what's the question? Yeah, your regular answer can totally go here, and then what you're then decide you're going to count by can go here. So that's good. Good. So that can be 8 there, or it can be 10. I'm just going to mute this up here, guys, so I can look without the answers being shown to you. All right, so I'm getting some answers from Jocelyn, from Max, Gabe, Dominic, Tim, Eva, Aleshka, Moses. Good participation, guys. And most of you guys are looking like you're in good shape, too. Taylor. Trey, good. Jordan, Victoria, good, good. Okay, I don't see any wrong answers yet, which is so good to see. I see a variety of answers, which is fine. So let's talk about them. If you didn't participate, I hope that means then instead you should ask a question, right? And saying, I don't know what I'm doing. So let's be clear of that so that you can take ownership in your learning. So for number of shirts, remember we're just going to do 150 divided by 20 because I'm going to give you your graph. And we get 7.5. Okay? So I saw two answers and either one is good. I saw people who said I want to count by eights and I saw some people who said I want to count by tens. Either one is fine with me. If you are comfortable using 8 and going 8, 16, 24, 32, that is fine. But 7.5 is relatively close to 10 that I think you're all really good at counting by tens. Okay, so either one is fine. We just certainly can't round down to 7 or 5. That's for sure. If you had a number like 2.5, please don't round that all the way to 10. That's too far. Okay, so good there. Again, you choose. Don't write both of those. Just you choose which one you want to use.
So if you had 2.5, would you round that to 5?
Yeah, the question in class, guys, was if like we did get 2.5 as an answer, then that would be good to round to either 3 if you want, or I would use 5s. Exactly. 5, 10, 15, 20. Okay? Same thing. If it was like 12.5, maybe 15s. Okay? So usually I use 5 or 10 intervals, but your choice. All right, and then 874.95 divided by 20. And I saw two answers here. I saw people saying 45 or 50, and I am good with either of those because your answer is 43.7 something. So again, we need to round that up. Don't round it down. So 45 or 50 works. Okay, again, you don't need to write all those numbers in there. You choose what you're comfortable with. And if you had either of those, you're good to go. Any questions at all with intervals? Okay, so now let's make sure that we understand this next part and our variables and so forth. So for number 7, it says write an algebraic equation and define your variables. So when it says x represents, let's just go back to my chart. What did I say the x column is? The x column is the number of shirts, exactly. So x represents number of shirts. What did we say that second column? Or again, over here on my interval table, the second one. Yeah, total cost. So y represents total cost. Okay. So now when we talk about our equation, it's what we used on that first page. How did we find the total cost? So I'm going to start with saying y equals. How do I write y represents total cost? How did we find that total cost? What did we multiply? 550 times x, the amount of shirts, and that's what x says, right? And then plus we always had to pay the one-time fee, which I just want to make sure I copy correctly, was $49.95. So if you look at what I just wrote, y equals 550x plus $49.95, look up above at like question 3, right? 550x plus $4.95 equals y, our cost there. Y can either come first or at the end. Wouldn't be wrong either way. All right, is it possible to order is it possible for a shirt order to cost exactly $9.95? Well, we're just going to plug it in and solve, right? So my equation says y equals, or you can do equals y. So I'm plugging in the money in for y, and then I'm going to solve for X. Right? We don't know how many shirts they gave me the money. Again, guys, if you put the $9.95 at the end, that's fine too. Either way, how do I solve these equations to get X alone? I subtract that one-time fee first, just like we said in our explanation. That gives me $945.05. And then what do we do? Divide. Why does this happen sometimes? Sometimes it stops me from writing. There we go. So, right. So now when I divide that, I get 171.827, yada, 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 equals X. So what is that telling me? Am I getting an exact amount of shirts here? No. So if I buy an amount of shirts, it'll never give me exactly $9.95. So is it possible? No, because this would give me a part of a shirt, right? 0.82 of a shirt, which we can't have. Give me a part of a shirt, which is impossible. We can't order part of a shirt. Okay, so keep that in mind whenever we're talking about real life situations. Okay, when can we actually have decimals and when can we not? So if you're looking for money as an answer and you get a decimal, that's fine, right? We can have money with decimals. But if I'm talking about a shirt, a decimal answer doesn't make sense. All right. Any questions? Am I okay to move on? I'll leave 8 there for a little bit in case anyone's copying. But the last part is what we keep on sort of trying to nail down, and that's understanding the difference between our variables and our constants. Our variables should be very easy for us to identify at this point because we've continued to keep writing them, right? Variables are what's changing, and what 2 letters do we often use to represent them? X and Y. So we already defined that, right? Let's go back up. It's in my chart at the beginning. It's in my interval chart, and we defined them on question 7. So when it says what are the variables, we're not just going to say the variables are X and Y. What are they for this problem? That X variable was shirts, right? So the 2 variable quantities are the number of shirts, and then in parentheses, you put the units, which we said is just shirts. And again, just pull right from your chart. So that was our first variable. And the other is what? What was the Y standing for? Total cost. And what's our unit for total cost? Dollars. Okay, so variables should be very easy to identify after having filled in your chart and so forth. And remember, it's the things that are changing. The shirts changed. We had 3 of them. Then we had 150 of them. The constants are what stays the same. So what always stayed the same throughout my calculations? There were some numbers there that never changed. Someone give me one of those numbers. Alyssa. 550. Good. What does that 550 represent? The cost of each shirt, right? So the constants, and we have 2 minutes till the bell rings, guys, and I just want you to make sure you stay until we finish this since we just have these 2 questions. The constants are the cost of each shirt. Again, if you wrote price of a shirt, that's fine too. Okay, that was the 550. So I'm not just going to say the constant is 550. I used the words, right? The constant is cost of each shirt. And then was there another number that we always used? The $49.95. What did that represent? The fee, exactly. So the constants are the cost of each shirt and the Yeah, that's setup fee or the one-time fee. If you just wrote the fee, that's okay too. Okay? So again, variables are whatever you defined as X and Y, and constants are the numbers you're always using in each problem to solve. All right, and last but not least for number 10, and then I feel confident that you guys can do 11 through 13 after lunch. Independent and dependent. They're staring at you right in number 8, right? We already said what the variables are. Now we just need to decipher which is which. Independent is what letter? X. Dependent is Y. So what did we identify as X? Look up above. Well, we just said that's going to be the independent one, but look up above. Hang tight. Look up above at number 7. X is number of shirts. So if we're saying independent is X, that means independent is the number of shirts, which makes the dependent variable, if we said is Y, I go back up and I said Y was cost. So the dependent is the total cost. Okay, so you guys can head off to lunch. When we come back, we'll have you guys finish up 11 through 13. Okay, have a good lunch.